Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. I am a Jen who reads, and this is my October reading wrap-up. October was a phenomenal month for reading for me. I did a total of 12 books. 4 of them were on audio, 2 of them were on my Kindle, and 6 of them were physical books. And my average star rating for the month of October was a 4.02. This month, I curated my reading list with the help of Becca and the Books, her Spookopoly that she created and so generously shared with everybody. So I will have her channel tagged in the description below. And so this was sort of like a Monopoly game. I have a couple of videos back explaining how I found all of these books. And sorry, the delivery man just showed up. And so let's just jump right in and I'll talk to you about the books that I read for the Spookopoly. All right, so the first one is Tender is the Flesh. And I picked this book because I was looking for something that was scary, but the typical scary things like monsters and stuff don't really scare me. So this book is just disturbing. This takes a look at what happens. This is like a speculative fiction book that's just kind of creepy. What happens if animals contracted this disease that made them basically inedible to humans? And so in this book, the humans have decided to raise humans, other humans, like cattle for the sole purpose of eating them and getting protein. So there's slaughterhouses that are full of humans that are being bred just to eat. There are even some families who build cold rooms in their houses so that they can just have a human living in there. And they literally just can hack off pieces of these humans as they're ready to eat them. So it's pretty gory. It's pretty disturbing. And this book follows a man who works in a slaughterhouse. And it kind of goes through his feelings and why he does the things that he does. This is definitely a creepy book. It's not for everybody. You have to have a pretty tough stomach, I think, to handle this. But I thought it was a great book. I recommend it for anybody who thinks they can handle it and has a pretty, like I said, tough stomach. All right, next up is probably one of my favorite reads of the entire year. And that is The Assistant to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Maherer. So I did not know this going into this, but apparently this book stemmed from a series of TikTok videos that she made called Assistant to the Villain, and they were really popular. Honestly, what drew me to this book first was just the look of it. I love the red sprayed edges. And then when I picked this up and started reading it, I fell in love with the characters. The easiest way that I can describe this is almost like Shrek, but for adults, but there's no spice. So there is this woman and she needs a job and she stumbles upon this man in the forest and he offers her a job and he is the town villain. And so she goes to work for him. Upon working for him, she finds out that he's really not as bad. And there is some attraction there. Let me tell you what, this is the slowest of slow burns. I cannot wait for the second one, but I have to wait almost an entire year. I think September 2024. But the characters in this book are so cute. Kingsley, he's this little frog right here. He's so cute. I love him. He's probably one of my favorite characters. So Assistant to the Villain, highly recommend it. I gave this one 5 stars. All right, another amazing read. I am a huge Edgar Allan Poe fan. And so I saw on Netflix that they were coming out with a series that was inspired by his works. It's called Fall of the House of Usher. So little side note, you need to watch it. It is so good. If you are an Edgar Allan Poe fan and you are familiar with his works, you are going to eat it up. You're going to say, oh, I see this. I see this. Oh, I recognize this. There are so many Easter eggs. But if you are not familiar with Edgar Allan Poe, it is still amazing. So this book is my first read by T. Kingfisher, and I'm definitely going to pick up more by her. I've been wanting to read this book for a while. I think that the cover is absolutely amazing. So this was inspired by The Fall of the House of Usher, and it's supposed to be a retelling, and I would not consider this a retelling. I would consider this just a telling of The Fall of the House of Usher, but more fleshed out. So it explains the characters a little bit more and their motives and stuff. I thought that this book was absolutely amazing. And after I was done reading it, I found out there is a sequel. One of my favorite things in this book is that there is a character. She's sort of I don't know, she's not a side character, but she's not a main character. So she's sort of in the middle. And she makes a comment, just an offhand, you know, side comment about one of her ancestors. And if you're familiar with children's literature, you might be like, oh, that is so cool that there's that connection. So I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to spoil it. But What Moves the Dead, The Fall of the House of Usher, top, made my October reading and my October TV watching just absolutely superb. I can't recommend it enough. Okay, next up, I read the 5th book in the 2nd Percy Jackson series, which is The Blood of Olympus. I still have all my ugly stickers on there. So I am reading my way through all of Rick Riordan's books. And when I'm finished, I will move on to the Rick Riordan Presents books. I have them. I'm not going to move my camera, but I have them all up here on a shelf, just ready to be read. So after I finished this one, which was, of course, 5 stars, I picked up the newest Rick Riordan book, which is The Chalice of the Gods, which I will be reading in November. So I'm not going to talk about it too much. Of course, 5 stars. All right, I have 2 more books that I read for the Spookopoly. Aside from Edgar Allan Poe, Ray Bradbury is top-notch. I love everything that he's written. However, I have not read everything that he's written, so I guess I love everything that I've read that he has written. And so this month I picked up The Halloween Tree. It was okay. It's definitely not my favorite writing that he has done. It's not my favorite story, but it's cute, and I read it at the very beginning of October, so it's sort of like, you know, it was a nice segue into the spooky season. My plans were to read this and then watch the cartoon. I think it's a Hanna-Barbera cartoon called The Halloween Tree, and it was inspired by this. I just didn't get around to it. I think I gave this a 3 stars. The cover is really cool, though. And the last book that I read for Spookopoly was The House of Hollows. So this is about 3 sisters. They're young. And they go off with their parents on a vacation, and they disappear like right out from under their parents' nose. Their parents like turns their head for a second, and they just completely disappear with no trace. A month later, they mysteriously return back to the very same spot that they were missing from, but they're different. There's something different about them, and people don't understand the difference. And so this book just goes through them growing up and what happened when they came back. And then they start to realize as they get older that maybe the differences that they came back with are a little bit more significant than they thought. I would say that this book is a cross between the Cruel Prince series, because the aesthetic is very similar, and Stranger Things, because there is another world in here. It's like a portal fantasy, and it's very similar to the Upside Down in Stranger Things. So House of Hollow, it was creepy. It was good. I liked it. I would recommend it. It wasn't a 5-star read for me, but it was good enough to be enjoyable. All right, let's see. The next books that I want to talk to you about are middle grade books. So I'm a middle school teacher, and Margaret Peterson Haddix is one of my favorite authors to read to my class. So at the beginning of the year, I read Running Out of Time for them. And this is about a family who lives in the 1800s. So think like Little House on the Prairie. And then come to find out it's really the 1990s, and they are living in this like reserve where tourists can observe them living in the 1800s. So that's not a spoiler because it literally says that on the back. So the plot twist in this book, the biggest plot twist in this book, is revealed on the back, and it happens at the very beginning of the story, which is sort of odd. But then, so I read this book. This came out like 30 years ago. And this year, Margaret Peterson Haddix released Falling Out of Time. And this is a continuation. So this is about 200 years in the future, a very futuristic society. And there's a girl in here who finds out that she is related to the characters in the previous book. And she starts receiving these mysterious messages from them. And they're messages asking for help from 200 years in the past. So I did finish this book with my class in October. They really liked it. Their only feedback was that compared to the other book that we read, it was a lot longer, and that they felt like it didn't need to be this long. They felt like they could have gotten the same information, but with a lot less description. So that's Falling Out of Time. All right, so let's move on to the audiobooks I read. I read the third book in the American Royal series, which is called Rivals. So the American Royal series is about basically what happens if after we won the Revolutionary War, instead of deciding that we were going to be a democracy, we were going to stick with being a monarchy. So George Washington, instead of becoming the first president, he became the first king. And fast forward to nowadays, and this is the family that is in the White House. It's still the White House, but it's, you know, the monarchy. So they're the kings. It's still from the Washington, you know, descended from the line of Washington. And the girl who is expected to, you know, be the heir of the throne, she's the first female since George Washington that is in line for the throne. So anyways, there's, you know, they have teenagers, and so things, you know, there's love triangles and people sneaking out of the castle or the White House or whatever. So that's like the gist of the series, and this is the third book in the series, so there's 4 books total, and I loved it. I mean, it's a really good read. It's a super unique plot. It's a fast read. Like I said, I listened to it, so it was a really fast listen, and I enjoyed it, so I recommend it. Let's see. Riley Sager's The Only One Left. This one came to me from the library unexpectedly. I had it on hold for a long time, and I didn't think it was going to show up as soon as it did. And it was okay. There were some twists and turns, but, you know, it was your pretty standard suspense thriller. So The Only One Left is about a family, and like 70, 60 years ago, the girl in the family killed everybody in her family. She was a teenager. So she's sort of compared to Lizzie Borden. And now she lives all alone in the family manor, and she has had stroke after stroke after stroke her entire life. So she's pretty much bedridden. And this is about the new caretaker who was hired to take care of her. She starts digging into this mystery and this crime, and she uncovers some truths, and it sort of just unravels and spirals from there. So it was okay. Like I said, pretty standard thriller. There were some surprises that I didn't see coming, but it wasn't anything that was like super shocking. I also read Mad Honey by Jodi Picoult, and I can't remember the other author, but I think it's her sister-in-law. But anyways, it's going to be right here so you can see the author. And it was okay. It was not what I thought it was going to be about. So it's about this boy, this teenager, and he's on trial for the murder of his girlfriend. His mom is a beekeeper, so she goes back and forth between, like, you know, telling you what's happening with the trial and then kind of relating that to bees. So it's interesting. I enjoyed it. I listened to that one on audio as well. I would recommend it, but it's not like a go out and get it right away book. It's just, it was good. It was okay. And then I also listened to Black Cake on audio. This has also recently been turned into a Hulu series. And this is about a brother and a sister, and their father has already passed a few years ago. And then when their mother passes, the lawyer says that she left them like a video message. And so they have to sit and listen to this message before that they can, you know, get their inheritance or whatever. And she basically tells them the story of her life, and she was not who they thought she was. And not in a bad way, not in a bad way, but, you know, her life was not as easy as they thought it was. Come to find out, they have a half-sister somewhere. So they're looking for her. And this is just them kind of coming to grips with, you know, their lineage not being what they thought it was. This was such a good and emotional book. There were so many surprises, and I cannot wait to watch this on Hulu. I highly recommend this book. I loved it. All right. On my Kindle, I read my very first lit RPG. So my family, we like to play D&D. So there's my D&D shelf right here. Unfortunately, I have no time to play D&D, so we don't play it often. But I do sometimes play it with my middle schoolers as well. So RPGs are just really fun, and we really like to play them. And so I stumbled upon a genre called lit RPG. And it's basically like the crossover between a video game, a role-playing game, and a book. And so you follow this character as they are leveling up, and you see the different things that they gain and the different powers that they get for doing certain things and going on certain quests. So the one that I read was called How to Defeat a Demon King in 10 Easy Steps. This was very, very reminiscent of Zelda. It's a she. So the main character actually even gets like a green hat and a green tunic to go on these quests and stuff. And then you can see they go and they defeat some slimes in the forest, and then they see in their vision, it says you leveled up and the inventory in your bag has leveled up. So anyways, it's really cute. So apparently there's this demon king, and every like 200 years the hero has to defeat the demon king. And this year the demon king is stronger than ever, and the hero still hasn't stepped forward. So our main character decides, you know what, I'm going to try to do it. And she starts from the very bottom, and she does, she goes out and kills 1 million slimes just to level up and be able to increase the inventory in her bag. And she ends up, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but she ends up using very mundane and unimportant things like the inventory in her bag to do really great things that took a lot of clever thinking to think of. I definitely want to read some more lit RPG. I have a few lists that I have curated, but if you have read any that you would recommend to me, I would love to hear them. And let's see. All right, so the last one was a ARC copy. I think by now it may have come out. I read this with Ezeekat Book Club on Fable, so I will link his channel below as well. This was called The Forest Demands Its Due, and I didn't like it at all. So there's like this college, or no, it's like a private school, and there's a forest outside, and there's like a curse and all these demons and monsters and stuff in the forest, and everything is not how it seems to be. And so this boy comes in, and he's supposed to be able to like break the curse. And so it was just the pacing was really strange. And you listen and you hear about all of these other people who have tried to break the curse and it hasn't worked. And then he steps into the forest and he's like, all right, well, this is why I think that you need to stop doing what you're doing. And the monsters are just like, okay, fine. Everything's fine. I'll stop doing it. I was like, what? It took me a really long time to read it too, because it was just not my cup of tea. So, I don't really recommend that. So that is everything that I read or listened to in the month of October. It was a phenomenal reading month. October was just a great month in general. We went to Halloween Horror Nights. So we live outside of Orlando, a few hours. So here are some pictures popping up from us going there. It is my stepson's birthday right around Halloween. So he always wants to go to Halloween Horror Nights, and it's not my favorite thing, but I go. And unfortunately, I was very excited about The Last of Us house because The Last of Us was a TV show that really scared me. Walking Dead doesn't scare me, but The Last of Us scared me, and I will tell you why. I am afraid of fast zombies. Zombies should not be able to run. So if we ever do have a zombie apocalypse, I hope that they are like Walking Dead zombies and not like The Last of Us zombies. However, we waited the longest to get into The Last of Us house, and I was really excited about that because I thought that that would be scary, and it wasn't. I didn't like it, really. I thought it was pretty boring. The other houses that we waited like 30 minutes for were a whole lot better. All right, and then the other thing that we did this month that was really cool is it's my daughter's birthday, actually today. I'm recording this on November 4th. And so I took her to Beetlejuice the musical. So here's just a few pictures from that. I'm not able to take pictures of the musical itself, but it was phenomenal. I laughed so hard. I recommend it. We had such a good time. So that's it for October. I can't believe it's already November, but I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving and I'm looking forward to a week off. And I was sad last night. I had to take down all my Halloween decorations in the library, but now I get to sit here with pretty fall trees, which is how we do fall in Florida because it still looks like summer outside and it's still like 80 degrees. Anyways, check out all of my socials below, and I will just have a whole bunch of links to the people who I talked about. And as always, if you liked anything that I said, I appreciate your likes and your comments and your subscribes. And I hope you have a wonderful November.